everyone, and welcome to the DripDropz After Town Hall. I'm Lloyd, and today's topic is value propositions. So, oh boy, things may break. So a value proposition is what makes your business attractive to customers. Customers are looking for things that are going to solve problems for them, going to do a job for them, things of that nature. And a value prop is a good tool for us as business owners, as entrepreneurs, to sort of settle in and decide, what it is that we're providing to our customers in a way that our customers understand. Because no matter how cool and bright and shiny your new project or product is, your customer may not understand it. So this framework, this value proposition framework, is an idea to help you focus on how your customer sees your business and your product, rather than what you know when you're living in the weeds of your business. So has anybody here, have you guys heard of value prop before? Has anybody had to build one for a business before?
I have.
Yeah, this is and Kyle, I know you've spent a lot of time in the sales process, so you know that's this is one of those like important tools for you, for your tool belt, right?
It's critical. You have to know your value proposition, or you should, before you even try to contact a customer, and you have to know how to convey that very quickly. Otherwise, people see that as almost wasting their time, and it can kill a sales engagement right away. So it's something that every organization or entity that's trying to take money from somebody else in the sales process should define very, very thoroughly, quickly, and simply, right, in layman's terms, that can be received without jargon and without your recipient knowing every facet of your industry, because what may be relevant to you may not be relevant to him.
Right on. And that brings us right up to it. Really, what is a value prop? Because this is a topic that, as Kyle said, this is super important. So you need to understand what it is and why you need one, and what makes a good one, what makes a bad one. So we're going to go through all that today. That's the topic of today. So first of all, it is a framework. So this is a tool for you to use no matter what your business is. It doesn't matter if you sell a widget, if you have a service. Everybody who takes money, as Kyle said a minute ago, everybody who takes money from anybody else in a business, you have to have a value prop as to why it is that money should come from that customer to you. One of the key things is that it's focused on the needs of the customer. It's always about the customer. With that, you can build a better product. If you're trying to build a product in a vacuum, you're not going to necessarily reach you may not have a customer base that wants that product. It may be a product of one. You might be your only customer. So part of the process also is that it does allow you to visualize your customers' needs, and then how your product meets your customers' needs, so that we can do like an iterative framework. I'm a big fan of anything that I can iterate on. So anything that I can improve the process over time by going back through it once I've learned lessons, that's a helpful tool to me. And this is, I think, one of those tools. And lastly, it's all about product market fit. I think if you hear a set of 3 words from our team on any kind of regularity, it's product market fit. We're always talking about that. And there's a reason for it, because you need a product, it has to go to market, and it has to fit that market. Well, value prop exists right in the middle. If you look at what the customer's needs are and what you have right in the middle of that, if you can tie those together, that's where product market fit lives. So that's how important this particular task is. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what it takes to create a strong value prop. To me, these are the 6 things, and I'll break from here and I'll show you guys why the 6. I'm gonna stop sharing this one. I'm gonna break from here because I'm gonna show you guys a great template that I use for value props, and I'm gonna share this one instead.
Even more like products are coming together. We even see that quite almost weekly now with the closing reports. However, like some of them are so small that I don't even know how to fit them into like a bigger tooling. So like, is there on that idea, is there way to kind of turn this many groups of consultancies or value proposition of consultancy of developing tech into something which actually, okay, make this tool. Can we now put that tool to create the revenue to now then back to this consultancy to find more of these solutions? Because right now I think we're kind of stuck, like fighting for over making tools which like only help to scale the developers, or making tools which help to grow and impact the like a social like environment.
So Tivo, is what you're saying is that we need to start making businesses on chain rather than making products that can actually generate revenue, rather than the current model.
I don't know what I'm saying. What I'm seeing is that I see 80% of consultancy coming up from Catalyst and very like innovative ideas. However, they never reach to the point where they actually get like an automated version out of that idea. And yeah, and it kind of stays in the consultancy world forever.
Yeah, this is kind of one of the motivators for us doing this space. And sorry guys, I somehow got sucked out into main meeting. I guess somebody pressed a button and pulled.
Everybody got rugged. We all got rugged.
Oh, okay, cool.
Everybody in every breakout room got rugged.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, it took me a minute to get back. So we'll try to see if we can continue. But Tivo and Shrimple, I recognized your voice, but I didn't get the face.
Yeah, Shrimple Solutions Limited. I represent my organization. Yeah. No, it's Tom, Lloyd. Good to see you.
It's Tom. Okay, I knew I recognized your voice. I'm like, I recognize the voice, but I was trying to put that voice to a face.
What's the topic of discussion again, Lloyd?
So today is value props. So value propositions. It's so just to try to get our conversation back on the rails, since we all got yanked out of the room. It's the product development framework that is really focused on what a customer's needs are and how your product can meet the customer's needs. So it's probably one of the most important tools in an entrepreneur's tool bag. And all of our sessions here, this is what we're trying to do, is what Tivo was saying there. We're trying to help everyone in the space who could be an entrepreneur, who could take any of these tools and turn them into a business model, whatever that looks like. And so there's a lot of tools that work in the traditional business world that apply just as well here in blockchain. And so that's what we're trying to do each week is offer a topic on that. And that's our topic this week. I'm going to try to, before we got interrupted, I was about to share a screen to show you guys what a tool we use for building value props. And let me pull this one up right now. Let's see. Oh boy, should be that one. Let me double check. Looks like all of my windows got trashed by the when we lost the connection there. Sorry. Here we go. That's the one I need. And share this. This is a fantastic model for doing value prop. This is Lucid. They have this same thing in Miro or wherever else. So you'll see there's a customer segment and a product segment, and what you do is you want to line out what your customers' jobs are, the pain that they experience, that is why they need that job done, the gains that they expect. Now the gains are kind of how they measure what you're doing. So not how you measure your success, how your customer measures whether or not you successfully did what they needed. And then on your product side, this is over here, that your product in the square, your product, your service, the experiences that you offer that could solve a problem for customers. So that's kind of what Tivo was saying a minute ago, where you've got these things that have been built, but we really haven't put them anywhere. Well, you put them here in this area, and then you look at how they act as a pain reliever for that customer's pain. and how they can be measured, how the gain that they provide over to the customer is. And when you get those things together, and this is a fantastic exercise for this, when you get these pieces together, you really can build a solid value prop. Now, let's see. What we're running with today, we're sharing for you guys the where's Figma now? Here we go. So here they are. You see how there's 6 segments here, and it maps directly to those 6 segments. So like we can take really anything, like what's a customer's job in Cardano? What's something that needs to be done in Cardano right now that lots of people are complaining about? Anybody can throw anyone out.
CSL lib.
Okay, there you go. Okay, CSL lib, like the library to talk to the Cardano node from an app as a programmer, right? That's a great point. That's a job that needs to be done. What are some pain points that customers are experiencing with the current lib?
Well, I think most currently, what did we run into? There was a parameter hard coded for mainnet, and so code doesn't work on pre-prod, if I recall correctly.
Right.
So we had to put in a PR to Emergo for that, and or we
Right.
notify that and get that fixed. So there's tools that the industry really needs, like they're integral tools to a lot of different components, and then there's like custom tools that you need to achieve your own specific revenue goals. So it's important to differentiate between those.
Right. That's excellent. And that is a great point. And remember, for these, we're trying to focus on, the customer's pain point. Like right now, we would be a customer of Emergo. So our pain point would be that, hey, we were missing something in CSL. There's actually a few things missing in CSL that we really need, that need improvement. And so, and those are our pain points. Now, and then how would we, as the customer, measure that, our gains? When they responded and gave us the information that we needed, so that we could actually use things on pre-production and preview networks, and and move forward with that actually was their pain reliever for us, and we measured our gain by saying, hey, we got what we needed in that moment to move forward. So
didn't we have to put a lot of pressure to get the CSL kind of migrated post Vassal?
Yes, that I do recall that too. That's been kind of a big thing. I know it's still going on, and I know there's a whole other set of tooling. There's sort of a parallel set of tooling that's come out of it as well.
Yeah, I think it's specific to minting, but yeah, no, great discussions have come out of it. Like new product paths have come out of discussions like that. So it's really good to explore that.
And so you can see there that that was someone that took a pain point, and they actually built a separate, and there's more than one. There's several. I know there's the mesh library now that's doing it in one way with one language. There's a Cardano Python library that's doing it a different way. Both in native languages for themselves. There's another one for .NET framework type stuff for if you're into Microsoft C#. So there's all these frameworks that use different languages, different ways of getting at the same thing. The bottom line is that each of those found pain points. They found a measurable way to improve the lives of people that were using things in the space. So this is a great mapping of how we find, a potential, whether it's a business case or just even a use case, like for this. Like, not a lot of these are open source projects, but I think open source projects should have value props. I think, that they could use that value prop to potentially build a business on top of their open source libraries.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a perfectly legitimate and valuable way of doing things. And there's examples of that in the ecosystem right now of people who have that. They have their open source stuff, and then they're building commercial products right on top of it. So
Summon guys are doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Summon. Yeah, they built, they built Roundtable, gave it away for free. It's a good multi-sig product, but now they've also In addition to that, they've also started their Summon product, which is a paid platform that takes that open source stuff and makes it easier to use. It's a perfect example. And it's a little painful to use Roundtable. It really is. You have to do a lot of manual stuff to make it work, to get the signatures in there, but it works. But now they're given, hey, here's a great, easy, fun interface to do what was a complicated task on top of something that they gave away open source. I think it's a great way of looking at whatever your product might be in Cardano, even if it is open source, even if you gave it to the community. What can you do as the expert in that to earn income and revenue for yourself or for a small business that maybe helps support your development and making your open source development even stronger? So now let's talk a little bit about bad value propositions, because if they're important, there's probably ways to do it wrong, right? And these 4 things really will miss the mark when building a value proposition. So if you start out with adjectives, this is the coolest, neatest, cleanest. They're probably fluff words. They're probably not necessary. It's exciting to you because it's an exciting product, but those words are probably not giving your customer the more direct and distinct answer that they need to evaluate whether or not they're going to use your product. So avoid starting with adjectives. And then let's not use words that aren't measurable. Okay. If I have a high quality product, what makes my product higher quality than your high quality product? Right? You see how those are kind of wasted words, and kind of customers going to look at you down there going like, yeah, that sure is a high quality toilet brush there, right? It's a toilet brush. It's got one job. Does it really need to be high quality, or does it just have to do the job? So just a word of caution there. And I love the word braggadocious. I thought that was, but are you bragging on yourself? Are you the bestest, the mostest, the world classiest? If you think you're better than the others, prove it by doing, but don't add it to your value prop, because that's not actually going to work to give your customer a way to evaluate you for them. And the last one is including your company name. Value props aren't branding. Value props come with your branding, but they themselves have to stand alone. Someone should be able to read your value prop and say, who's the company? Who's the product? What's that service? That's what a value prop should do. So you don't include your company name in a value prop. So, hey, Kyle, go ahead.
Hey, Lloyd, quick question on that. And I actually stepped away, so I'm not sure if you even talked about it. I might have just rudely missed it. But the not measurable part. So, and I'm not really asking for my thing specifically, just more in general about things like what I do with my security project, right? So
yeah,
it was an internal challenge to figure out how to measure that. Because my project, for example, I provide a service where I advise people on security stuff.
Absolutely.
But how do I measure that, right? I can't measure it as I saved 20 people in 3 teams from malware, because that's impossible to know, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
So someone providing services where it's hard to do that, what would you maybe suggest?
So go ahead, Kyle.
Go ahead.
Okay. So what I would start with is what do you actually provide to the customer? You're right. You can't measure the customer's success themselves of applying your techniques. You're right. That's on them, right? But what did you provide to them? You provided them guidance. You provided them actionable information. Did you give them a firewall rule set that will work, or a firewall best practices set that works? You see what I mean? Just to keep it in the security framework. Did you teach them how to secure their switches better, or their SIM cards in their cell phones, right? Like these are, if you gave them an actionable step that they could take and that would measurably improve their performance. So in other words, they weren't encoding their SIM card, and they had 1, 2, 3, 4 in their SIM card, so they were subject to man-in-the-middle attacks for 2-factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one. Clone a SIM card, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bam, you're in. You can intercept somebody's 2-factor and get into their stuff, right? But if they implemented SIM pins, now that vector's gone. You can provably say you eliminated that vector for them because that was something they needed that you determined that they needed.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The way I would look at it is, if you can, you may have to do a lot of research, but break down what you really offer and see if you can find data on the impact of using those services in the industry, right? Like customers who use this service are, X% likely to experience an attack. You see it on a multi-million-dollar incident or whatever, something like that. So if you can tie it to revenue somehow, that's the best way to do it.
You can use
Yeah.
surveys. You should survey your customers and tally that stuff and then use it to kind of put that out there. That's what I use. Surveys are amazing, but we have to be consistent with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's all really good advice. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Sure. And yeah, thanks, Jenny. We love surveys too. That's been a great addition to our team, as well as starting to do surveys and really like trying to push that out and find out what our customer base and our potential customer base for our other products, what do they look like? What do they really need? That was
I learned that when I was a teenager, and I
Mhm.
used to get paid a lot of money to do surveys for big companies. And I was like, oh, they pay the big bucks for a reason,
Yep. There you go. It's good to be on the receiving end, and good to be out there collecting that data. Let's see here. And that it's funny because that actually was the very next topic. It's a great segue. Thanks, Jenny. The next and most important part of value prop is testing it. So I've got 3 things here that I think are really fantastic ways to do testing. One is getting your props in public, so you get your proposition in front of people. It's that beat the streets, man in the streets kind of thing, where polling works, surveys, standing out with a clipboard and chatting with people, and getting them to try and understand your product. Whatever method, it's kind of up to you as to how far your reach is, because this scales. This can be something as small as wanting to open a coffee shop in a neighborhood and standing around in the neighborhood and talking to people that walk by, to as deep as as big high dollar surveys that that have scientific measurements and all that kind of stuff. It just depends on your needs and how big your organization and operation is. But testing is important at every level. The other is make sure you reach out over social media, because in the current environment that we're in, social media is usually your least expensive way of getting the word out and finding out whether or not your value prop works for people. And it's like I was saying earlier, a person should be able to read your value prop and say, what's that business? That's the reaction you want. It's like, oh, that solves a problem I need to know more about that. And that's the hook that you're trying to hit with your value prop. And the third place is at customer touch points. So front page of your website, top of your emails, on your printed brochures, if you happen to have printing in your business, anywhere where your customer is going to see you, that's where your value prop needs to be. And you can look at any major business. Look at, in the insurance industry, I say look at Geico or State Farm. You can see their value prop. It's right there at the top of their website. Netflix has their value prop on their website. It's always in your face, because that's the hook that gets people to want to spend money with you, because they understand why they're opening their wallet to you and what it's going to do for them to meet a need that they have, a pain point that they have, and try to relieve it. And it leads to, for next week, and so I dropped the slides after this, we can just have an open floor after this, but leads to our next week's presentation, which is going to be on sales strategies, because that's why value props are super important. Value props lead to setting up a place that you can build your sales strategies from. And so that's what we're going to talk about next week. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. And like I said, it's an open discussion. We just, I'd like to share that, some good stuff like that up front to give you guys a grounding on what we're doing and why. But what do you guys think? How have you used value props in your business, or what questions do you have about a value proposition or building one that we can help answer for you?
I think there might be an extra step maybe in between value prop and going to sales.
Sure.
And I think we've benefited in our team with business model canvassing it, like basically, making sure your business model actually even works before you go to sales. So I feel like perhaps that might be, you might want to wedge that in between.
Well, we will bring business model canvas. We're going to do a business model canvas session here. I'm glad that there's another adherent to that. I love that. I love business model canvas. In fact, 2 elements of business model canvas are value props. It's 2 segments of the business model canvas are the value prop. What I'm hoping that we're giving everybody as we do these each week is we're trying to give everybody just a little taste of all these different techniques and tactics that help you improve a business, because we're building businesses. Ultimately that's what we're doing here. We're building businesses, and just because it's a business in a new industry doesn't mean that it doesn't need business fundamentals.
I think not all will build businesses here. I see, well, some say DAO is a business, some say community is a business, and some organizations. But I think right now we're in this unique position where we're actually building groups that to go beyond a bit of like, what is a business? They do some like free stuff and then still gain some value, or some of that value realizes in finances in many years later through some other impact measurement. And that's like, we have so many new tokenomics like ways to interact now. But yes, I think like taking these kinds of models and answering the question of what actually makes sense in the like a business world is very valuable practice to go through.
Absolutely. And I would say this, like if the value that you want to receive for your business is a token instead of, your local currency, the idea of the value prop is still the same, right? The value prop still fits. The business model canvas all still fits, even when what you're asking your customer to give you happens to be a token. That's what's really cool. A lot of these things that we're designing here actually, or talking about here, are actually kind of universal principles. They're kind of, if you're interacting in a way that looks like commerce, whatever that commerce is, even social commerce, where you're trying to, get a certain number of followers. And, if you have a value prop to get a certain number of followers through the door, your value prop will help drive more of those followers through your door. It doesn't have to be money. It's about accomplishing your goals. And that's what I like about these frameworks, is they're flexible enough to accomplish your goals if you put them in the right place in the framework.
Yeah, just to punctuate what you just said, it doesn't have to be a business value propositions. I mean, when you're trying to get a girl to date you, right? What's your value proposition? And has nothing to do with business.
Then now we're getting into sales strategies. Okay. So if you're chasing the customers, that's a lot like chasing a lady versus the customers chasing you. And you got to play it totally different depending on what's going on.
And the value proposition changes too. It could change. It evolves with your business, right?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
you mentioned Netflix, for example. Netflix started sending you DVD to your house.
Absolutely.
And now they don't do anything related to that. So,
right.
Well,
So
and
they're
that's the process of identifying revenue opportunities and scaling into them and creating, the technology and in parallel with, with everything that we're talking about, business model canvassing, that's just a whole new revenue opportunity. So you're absolutely right. If Netflix didn't adapt, they would be dead, just like Blockbuster.
right. Yeah, nobody needed a disc anymore. All you had to do was tune your little device that you already had at your house to receive the video you wanted to watch. They went that direction first enough that they, are now, on top of that game, at least for now. And other people are replicating their model, right? Other people are building, all the people who have large volumes of content of their own now have their own streaming services because Netflix was right, opened that avenue up, and other people followed suit. So you can build a unique business value proposition, and then others may follow you because you may open up a door that says, hey, I can do that myself. I can do that better, or I can do that in this other way. So it's not,
man.
What's that?
Fidget spinners, man.
Yeah.
But then eventually they become like whatever, right? When everybody's doing it, you have to find new value proposition, because if not, what do you do?
That's where the talent really comes in business, is creating something that's very hard to replicate.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
yeah.
There's ways to do that.
Because it can become obsolete. Like I remember when Netflix was like, oh, you don't have to pay fees anymore for late fees. That becomes obsolete. My son doesn't even know what it is to pay late fees for a movie. So, if I continue to use that, I'm not going to go anywhere,
Did any of your kids ever have to rewind the VHS?
My son did, because he was born in 1999. So
Okay,
he
so you
used
had
to.
one.
So he used
Yeah.
to like push the thing, but by then you could just the cassettes will pop out after they were done,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just push it back. It was crazy how things have changed.
Right, and that's the whole point, right? Like, we used to get fined if we didn't rewind the VHS tapes, right? So, there's always been problems, and that problem got solved by a disc, right? They figured out a way to do it to where you didn't have to rewind it anymore. You now had a disc, and that solved that problem. And then we're going on and we're solving other problems as we move along here, and we'll keep having new problems to solve.
Like Netflix now wants to charge all family members to be able to stream. Somebody's going to come and solve that problem.
Oh, yes.
I think
And they're going to put it in their value proposition, and we're all going to be like, what?
That's right.
Here's the other interesting thing about tech is that it's exponential, right? The advancement of technology is exponential. And with the advancement comes new opportunities to disrupt. And so value props are going to be changing ever increasingly for competitive organizations. And that just means there's always new opportunity to maybe do something.
Mm-hmm.
So to be first in that new area.
I think it'll be a good idea to because even that little exercise, the value proposition, to be to kind of flesh out one of these, Netflix versus Blockbuster as a group, so that it could kind of crystallize some of these components or these elements of the value proposition to the listeners here, right? People listening.
Right. So
well, that's Netflix and Blockbuster was a vision problem, right? Didn't Blockbuster laugh them out of the boardroom? They offered to sell to Netflix to Blockbuster for what was it, 50 million?
Right.
Something very small.
They were all visionaries at one point.
No.
So, and that's here you go. This is the idea of what was the customer job that needed doing, and it was entertainment in the evening. That was a big customer job that needed to be done, and they needed to what was their pain?
Rewind the tape.
Yeah.
No, up your butt, going out, getting it done,
Yep.
bringing it back, freaking out because you forgot to rewind, freaking out
Late
because
fees.
you forgot to return that shit. Yeah, they just turned the
Right.
bottle on.
Right. So there's and then how did you measure your gains from Netflix whenever you didn't have to do that anymore, right? It was like even just with the DVD version, right? You could stick it in the mailbox.
I will tell you this: Blockbuster still had a better selection.
Oh yeah.
I know.
And you got to
I
keep
miss
those
it.
DVD.
Value
You got to,
prop for someone who wants to go against Netflix. There's still a gap there. Getting those
And
on.
there's something about going to pick a movie. That's gone. It's
Yeah.
the whole experience is gone. From the smell to picking the candy to I don't know. It's all gone.
I think another gain is fuck, I just had it. That you could keep that movie indefinitely. It wasn't like a limit.
Yeah, no late fees. But then they brought the machines, right? Where you can like the red boxes and things like that.
Yep.
They'll put in supermarkets.
Yep.
But I think they started charging fees, right? Because then if not, they had no stock. So
But
It was either a fee or you bought it.
so it didn't really, it was like hot for a minute, but it didn't really bring back the whole feeling of having the movie there. I don't know. Last week,
I lived in a rural area, and so like where I had satellite internet and things like that. And if it was a rainy day, internet was just not present. And so in areas like that, those business models provide extreme value props. People don't care, so that it has its place and its fit.
absolutely. I mean, my friends still like in Venezuela, they use DVDs. So
So it's just interesting how quickly we could all, come on the customer segment side, and we could all, because it's a pain we felt as customers. So that's what's key in this whole process, is that you make sure you put yourself in your customer's shoes, just like you did there, so that you can, because it's actually your product side's actually a lot easier. You kind of live your product, your product. So that side's very easy, and it's easy to get lost in the weeds on that. Here in the circle, that's where your value is going to be created for you, is by making sure you get in your customer's shoes over on the other side. So I had seen TiVo had his hand up. Did you have something you wanted to add there, TiVo? All right. I'm not sure. We might have lost him. So, but yeah, it's that was great, because that was excellent for everybody to just kind of like dig in right there and see, how important it is to know that customer side. And on the other side, it's fairly easy to say, well, obviously Netflix sent the DVDs, that they built a mailing business and a processing business, right? And so that was the business that they built, and their pain relievers were the lack of fees, the ability to process the DVD quickly and get you the next one out quickly. Like that was their pain relievers that they solved for you. What's interesting is what Jenny's saying is like there's a missing element from there. There's a social element that was there when you went to the Blockbuster together and looked at all the selections and picked things out. And it was a social moment. Like now my wife and I are sitting on the couch in the evening trying to figure out something to watch on Netflix, and I'm getting annoyed that the Netflix is playing the preview over and over again. If you want a disruptor, build me a Netflix like service that doesn't make me watch previews of every damn thing I'm scrolling by, because I don't really want to do that.
That is a UI or UX nightmare right now, how they start playing the previews, because some TVs, they flash, it interrupts scrolling, the browsing. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, so it's a real pain.
And
Go ahead, Kyle.
No, I was just gonna say who works there doesn't use the project. CPM boss, this kind of sucks.
Right.
There was one feature about Netflix, and now we're getting into the nitty gritty, but there was one feature that was an early cool value prop that they no longer use, and that is there was a social element, going back to what you said about Blockbuster and being able to go to the store and etc. But there was you could rate your movies and see what your friends rented and what they liked. I remember that was early Netflix, and so you could see the history of viewing history of your friends who you followed, and maybe perhaps got recommendations because of that. So
Absolutely.
Sounds like a lawsuit to me.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's what it was. I'm sure somebody saw somebody watching something they weren't supposed to, or didn't, and that's what caused that whole thing to go down.
well, I think about it. I mean, then you enter into who's this value proposition for.
Mhm.
And that's when you see corporations that focus on their stockholders
Mhm.
or the experience, the consumers. And it's key to me because
Yeah, that's a stockholder value prop. Absolutely.
yeah,
100%.
Let's make people feel affinity for using this by showing them their other friends who are using it, right? So it's going to create some bias.
and the value of like getting that data. Hey, I'm keeping these people hooked up. They find ways to keep you hooked up. It doesn't matter if the experience is shit because they get the money. You know?
That's right. Well, and ultimately, when as companies get larger, that's where their value prop shifts, because as you pointed out there, Jenny, that's where their customer shifts. The customer that you start to become the product after a while, right? As we start out as the customers, but ultimately we become the product once they go public and they've got shareholders and they've got all this other stuff. We that used to be the focus, the customer, we now are, what do I have to do to keep that person paying me, but not lose them, but extract as much value as I can for the shareholders over here, which is, that's part of the system I know that a lot of us are here trying to fight out, fight against. Like we're trying to kind of shortcut a lot of that system and have that wealth go, stay closer to the people, the doers and the builders, and less toward the stockholders. But they're still there, they're still going to exist, and there's still going to be value extraction, in every way. So, maybe part of your value prop is how do you, is how you continue to take care of those customers as you go forward. All right, man. The hour actually went pretty fast today. This has been a jamming conversation. I love it when everybody's in there participating. It makes it a whole lot more fun. So appreciate you guys. And like I said, next week coming up, we will be back for sales strategies. We're going to go over and talk about the different ways that you can improve your sales techniques for you to reach your customers and get them out. And yes, we will be doing some more business model canvas sessions over the next few weeks. So look out for more of those, because that the more you identify and define your business and build these processes in where you're evaluating your business, the stronger your business will be for your sales, for your marketing, for your tech. So thank you guys again for coming this week, and we'll see y'all next week.